Okay, hello everyone. I think we can start. Okay, I will give you a second to enter the room and say hi. Hello from Poland. The weather is not very nice today, but I hope I'll manage. I hope it's better where you live and probably sunny, hopefully. Okay, hello, hello. Okay, so while you're hello, hello. While you're writing your hellos, I will start with some housekeeping rules. Of course, this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a certificate of attendance, a link to an ESAP pack, which includes a cheat sheet. A cheat sheet looks basically like that, where you have all the stages with all the information necessary, and a planner, a lesson planner, like that. You will see it on the slides. Of course, you'll receive a link to the recording and a fantastic thing, link to an online guide, How to Teach Online with Focus, second edition. This is a fantastic kind of help for you with all the digital tools you can use with the course and the mock lesson and some more interesting things. So hello again. I'm very happy to see you all today. Okay, so now I hope at least some of you attended my session last week when I introduced the ESAP framework and I presented the methodology and certainly did, Michael. I'm very happy to see it. The online teaching methodology. I presented some of the ideas, and I talked a lot about how it looks like, what it looks like in our teaching. So I also mentioned that we should always start our lessons with some retrieval practice. So let's start this session with some retrieval practice as well. So I guess some of you probably remember some facts from my life or something about me. So now I will give you a second to retrieve the information from your long-term memory, whatever you remember. How long have I been teaching? Okay, I can see it. Okay, student number one, Michael Brandt, fantastic. 25, yes, actually it's 25, okay. I am a director of studies and an owner of a private language school in, where exactly? In Poland, yes, I'm Polish, okay. I'm a teacher trainer, I run workshops across Europe and worldwide nowadays. I promote some kind of teaching techniques. What kind of teaching techniques? Efficient and thank you, Agnieszka. Yes, of course, simple. I love reading, but I also love something more. Yes, I'm a Netflix addict. I have two sons, and I'm a keen hiker, and my favorite place in the world is something, Camino de Santiago. Fantastic. Okay, you remember quite a lot. I'm glad you remembered. Hello, Peregrina. I can see some soulmates here. So basically, that's more or less just a few, ideas about me so that you get to know me better. And what about today's session? Today, actually, I'm going to talk about Focus second edition. So of course, we will kind of revise the idea of the ESAP in retrieval practice as well. So I want to get you, engaged into this session. Then I will present some of the resources on Pearson English portal, and I will show you what we can do with them, how to use them. Actually, it's really, really easy and user-friendly, as I said. And then I will present kind of a mock lesson, one of the lessons from Focus, and I will show you how how did I plan it, how I planned it, and what we can do at certain stages of the lesson. Okay, so what is the ESAP framework? So some retrieval practice again. I hope you remember something. So we start with the engage stage. So what does it include? What should we think about when we plan our lesson? if you have any idea, appetizer. I'm glad you remember the word. Yes, kind of a warm up. Yes, something engaging, something to, you know, keep students with us, make sure that they don't go somewhere else. And of course, we want to activate prior knowledge and maybe some retrieval practice, which actually works really well. The second part of the lesson is study. Okay, so what do you remember what I said about the study stage? That this is the one that probably is the and the new language. Yes, okay. So what about it? We introduce new language, but it's the longest stage. Yes, new content, keep students active, heads up. It was heads up, heads down, not hands, sorry. Okay, yes, it is the longest part. This is the part where we work on the language, on the new language. We introduce new language. And here I use presentation tool and screen sharing a lot, and vary the type of activities. Yes, I talked about heads up and heads down. So after students do some working on the text, I try to get them engaged in the form of, I don't know, kind of communication or maybe doing something together. And here I mentioned also that time is crucial. Yes, we need to give them time to think and to practice and to reflect on the language. Okay, and the next step is activate. What? Oh, Gigi, I want to check what you remember. So activate, what is this part? Okay, personalized tasks, breakout rooms. Okay, so this is the part where we want our students to do what? Okay, I can see real life situations. Yes, this is the part where we want encourage our students to use new structures. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So a lot of pair work, group work, breakout rooms, and as someone mentioned, I use personalized tasks a lot. Okay. And the last one is practice, which basically is a different word for what? For my English lab, yes, or for homework, of course, it's homework, yes. But students don't like the word homework, so we probably could use something like practice or independent work. And here we use interactive online workbook, and of course, I will show you what we can do and how to choose certain activities. Okay, so basically, the ESAP framework is supposed to help us plan a lesson, right, in the online context, online teaching context. But when I plan a lesson, it's not only about, you know, organizing a sequence of activities. I also keep in mind that I want my students to learn. So this, for me, the ESAP framework is more like planning for learning. It's not planning a lesson, it's planning for learning. So like I said before, I will present one of the lessons from Focus second edition, Focus 4 actually. I hope some of you know it. Lesson 4.1, vocabulary. This is the first lesson of the unit. So this is like a fresh start, and we move on into a new context, new area of English. And my lesson plan on the lesson planner looks more or less like that. Okay, so as you can see, just a few ideas, just a few exercises with a lot of things going on on the lesson, hopefully. So now let me take you on a tour around our Pearson English portal. Let me share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay, so I'm here, as you can see. Okay, just give me a sec. As you can see, okay, this is the Pearson English portal. I'm already logged on, and this is the account I have. We can start with dashboard, but here you will probably see, you know, I don't know how many books you have, but I have quite a lot. So we have to just scroll and go to the one we want to work with. So first I want to show you the resources page. Let me just check because I can't see the chat right now. Let me just check for a second if you can see everything. Okay, did you see the
It's fine, Magda.
sorry?
Yes, everything is
Everything is fine. Okay, super. Okay, so have a look. Here we have the resources page. As you can see, we have everything we need to plan and to carry out our lessons. Yes, we have the assessment package. For example, we have all the tests you need, vocabulary quizzes. You just choose the quiz. You can have the docs document or PDF. You can download this one, sent to your students. But as you can see, there are a lot of other tests here: grammar quizzes, use of English, okay, a plethora of tests to choose from, audio and video. Of course, these are integrated into the presentation tool, but still you can download them if you need them. Of the thing that I like is also the word list. Yes, the word list that I can simply have a look with you, okay, from the book, which is also in the form of a PDF that you can send to your students if you want. So as you can see, a lot of things to use from, lesson plans if you want to have a look what the authors of the book planned for you to do. But what is even more important is the presentation tool, which we use during our lessons. Okay, so as you can see, you just click on the unit you're going to work on, and here you can choose whether you want to see students book and workbook, or maybe just, for example, students book. Okay, I also have both because I want to see what the workbook offers for me. And when you teach a lesson, you basically start with teach, and I always start with the page view, okay, so that my students can see exactly where to look and what we are going to work on. So this is the page from the book, basically the same as your students can see in their paper course books, and all of the tasks are marked with a yellow star. They are in a way highlighted. Okay, so there's a hyperlink which you click and you just enter this exercise. Okay, so for example, if you ask your students to do the task on their own, after as soon as they are ready, you can just go through the answers with them, showing them the answers. You can also use show all. Okay, I will show you some other options here. Okay, this is the activity with the audio. So like I said, the audio is, of course, here. It's integrated. You just click and play the audio. You don't need any, CD players and stuff like that. Okay, whenever you see a paper clip, it means there is a kind of an attachment. In this case, it's just a text from the course book, which you have a very easy access from the exercise. You don't have to go back to page view at that point. So, okay, two more things I wanted to mention, quite useful, and you will see in my presentation today in my session that, well, we can, of course, find moments in our lesson when we can use the widgets. One of them is a timer. Okay, have a look, which basically, just give me a sec, a timer which you can use when you want to give your students kind of a limited time to do a task. But today I will show you that sometimes I use a stopwatch. Yes, basically you start, press the start button and it counts the time for you. You can make it larger, enlarge it so students can see exactly what is the time, the moment. Okay, scores. I think Michael presented it yesterday, yes, that you can have different teams and you can basically make some kind of a group work, group activities, turn them into a competition by adding scores. You can change the names of the team as well, and a dictionary, which is quite helpful. And I use it with my students. As you can see, dictionary. If your students, if you want to present the pronunciation or the examples and basically anything about the word, you can simply use the dictionary, integrate it into the Pearson portal, not to change, not to change the websites, not to go to any other online dictionary. And teaching tools, which are also quite helpful, like Draw. You can basically mark a task that you want your students to look at. Okay, you can use the highlighter whenever you want to present you want to highlight maybe some words or phrases you want your students to pay attention to. Okay, undo. Or hide. This is a very nice option. Okay, hide. You can hide some text so that your students don't see a part of the activity. For example, if you want to do some retrieval practice, you can basically hide something. Okay, so I think that's more or less that's it. Okay, and how about my English lab? That's another thing that is we use for online homework practice. And as you can see, you have to kind of activate your courses. And here in the gradebook, I have one group. I hope you will see it. Yes, okay, just a few students. And here you can see the scores. Right now they haven't done anything yet, so this course is 0. But you can see once you assign a task, for example, I want my students to do exercise 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you assign it. Of course, there are some steps. You just have to choose all the students, the date. Okay, assign. Once your students do the exercise, here in the gradebook, you can see the results. Okay, you can see what they have problems with and where maybe where they need more help and more practice on our next lesson. Okay, so now I will get back to our main room. No, I don't want to share my screen. I want to turn on the presentation. Okay, so I'm back. Yes. Okay, good. So when we teach online, I saw a fantastic meme which kind of is the perfect representation of the situation. What happens quite often is that the lesson online looks like a modern science. Yes, Elizabeth, are you here? Yeah, I can't hear you. I can't see you. Can you turn on the mic? Yes, can you unmute yourself? And so on. So basically, we want to start our lesson on a different mode. Yes, we don't want that. And that's why the best option to start our lesson in an engaging way is basically to engage our students, to warm them up, to start with an appetizer, like we said before. So in this case, I would, of course, the book offers you the activity, the show what you know, the first activity. But because it is the first lesson of the new unit, I would probably start with something slightly different, something more engaging. I think because it's about shopping and about shopping habits and about, clothes and stuff like that, I would start my lesson with a visual, with a picture, showing my students a chair covered with some clothes. And so, a question for you: do you know that actually this chair with the clothes on has a special name? Does anybody know what is the name of this chair with clothes on? Rocking chair, yeah, but it has clothes on, so there is something with the, you know. Yeah, that's a rocking chair. Oh, Ilona is almost there. It's not chair board. This one is called called chair drop. Chair drop, okay, and actually it's a word officially, which is officially kind of incorporated into our language. So probably I would, try to make my students guess the name. And then I would present a very short article which explains the idea of the chair drop. So basically, it's just the chair which replaces our wardrobe. Yes, they are too lazy. People are too lazy to put the clothes back into the wardrobe, so they simply leave it on a chair. But since they know the idea of the chair drop, you can see in the text. Of course, I would give them a minute or two to read the text. Have a look, because we have some more words, some more definitions here. Like a chair drop, it is not too hard to imagine that a few also have something or something. Can you think of the other words? What these could be? Floor drop, yes, okay. That's my son's idea of having a wardrobe. Is definitely floor drop. Bed robe. Okay, Laura. Yes. So actually here it was hook drapes, dresser drapes, and floor drapes, as you see. But the possibilities are here kind of limitless. Yeah, students can have quite a lot of ideas. So of course, I think it's a good way of starting a lesson, of engaging them in the topic by using a visual first, but also kind of showing something new, teaching them maybe something new, and discussing. Because after that, of course, I would go into a very short discussion about their habits. Like, what about you? Do you have a chair drop, floor drop, maybe any other drop? And actually, my students come up with some unusual ideas and words, just like you did. Yes, sofa drop. so quite a lot of ideas, and the thinking is on, and that's the point of this part. Of course, the second thing I would do before I move to the study stage, I would go through the exercise in the book, which is about checking whether our students remember how to use some prepositions. Yes, so like I presented on the PEP, students would do the activity on their own, and after that, of course, we would go through the answers, and maybe I would ask students I would nominate my students to tell me whether the sentences are true for them or not. Okay, or maybe they would somehow tweak the sentence to make it true for them. Okay, everywhere drove. Yeah, definitely a good one. Okay, so when our students are engaged, we can move on to the study stage, in which I would like you to remember about the balance between heads up and heads down activities. Yes, we want to make sure that students have time to think about the language, to reflect on the things they are learning, but we also need to break it sometimes to make sure that our students kind of don't drift away. They need to stay with us. So I will show you the lesson, how I would divide the study stage in this lesson. So the first idea in the book is reading the fact file. Okay, the fact file about textile waste. So I would definitely start with this one. And I would encourage my student to read it and just think whether this is a big problem in your country or not, okay? And just tell me. I would engage them into some kind of conversation. So this is the heads down and heads up. Yes, they read, but then we simply discuss the ideas. Depending on the size of your group, you can also use the chat box. Yes, you can nominate your students to unmute themselves and say whatever they have to say, or you can ask your students to write in the chat box. At that time, you make sure that maybe more of them are engaged. Yes, or more of them have a chance to express their opinions. So it depends on on the size of your group and on the topic of the lesson, probably. But I will show you that later on that I really engage all of my students throughout the lesson. So the next thing, because the fact file is just an introduction actually to the reading text, reading text about ways to buy clothes responsibly. Actually, quite an interesting text, which I personally enjoyed a lot. And the task here, the task that the book suggests, is to read the text and you have six points. It's like shop locally, support brands that promote ethical values, and so on. And the book encourages students to put a tick, question mark, or an exclamation mark next to the different points to express their attitude. Okay, so I would do it myself and would present it to my students. Like, for me, shopping locally is definitely something I do already. Yes, supporting brands that promote ethical values, I think it's a brilliant idea. Yeah, so I would present first kind of the visually how I went through the task, and I would encourage them to read the text and do the same. You can also ask your students to guess first, like, what do you think? What were my answers? Before you read the text, before you kind of personally answer the text, like when you put your answers next to the different points. So maybe you could guess what were my answers, and then we could compare. Is there any generation gap between us, maybe, and things like that. So I think it works really nice whenever I ask my students to compare their answers and opinions with mine. I teach young teenagers, like 14 to 19 years, and you know, I'm kind of I won't tell you how old I am, but I'm a bit older. I'm no spring chicken. So I tell them there definitely is a generation gap between them and me. So it's always interesting to compare our ideas. But after they read and do the task, I would encourage them to go into breakout rooms. I would simply put them into breakout rooms and ask them to discuss in groups, okay, in groups of 2 or 3, depending on the size of your group again. I think it's a good idea to first analyze the text together, like read it and then they go through it in groups together. They don't have to deal with everything on their own. Okay, after that, of course, we would move on to the vocabulary practice, as it's a vocabulary lesson. So what is the most important thing for us is that our students remember quite a lot of vocabulary from the lesson. So the first part is about phrasal verbs. And here I would give my students again time to work on their own, go through the text again, look for the phrasal verbs. If they don't know anything, they can always ask for help. I'm kind of monitoring whatever they are doing, and we communicate in chat at that time, basically. Okay. If there a few students ask me the same question, then I simply say it out loud, not to repeat to everybody. But I think a moment of silence is also okay at that point. Yes, where they need to really focus and analyze the text, look and kind of fish for words from the text. You know, so. That's the time when I give them. That's the moment of the lesson when I give them time to think in silence, and that's why using chat is a good idea. And as you can see in this exercise, actually, we have the questions in which students are supposed to replace underlined parts with the phrasal verbs. So before the lesson, I would prepare my Google Docs with some of the questions. And at that point, after my students work on the exercise in silence and individually, And with a lot of reflection, I would ask them to go to my Google Docs. I always share the document with my students and make sure that they are able to write in the document. And I would simply put some of the questions and ask my students to answer the question. So here we have some kind of a personalization at that point. And somebody asked me, why do all students write in the same paper? Yes, that they can see the answers. And I told them, yes, that's the idea. I tell them, you can steal ideas from the other students, but you have to add something more. Okay, so it's not about copying. Sometimes it's good, sometimes somebody asks you a question and it's difficult to come up with an answer just like that. So somebody says something, and it triggers some ideas. So I think that's a good way. But it's not, they are not allowed to just steal and copy. They have to add something more. And I will show you an example here. Like the first question was, why is it worth paying out for local brands? And Anita answered quite shortly, we support local businesses should be. Okay, that's fine. It's okay. But as you can see, Beata didn't have different ideas. So she copied this one, but she added something more. She said, because when we support local businesses, we help them grow. And the area, if underdeveloped, might become trendy. Okay, I think it's quite okay, and that's what I encourage my students to do. Yes, of course they have a lot of their own ideas, but sometimes they have a kind of a the inspirational block. Yeah, they don't know what to write. So I tell them, okay, no problem, you can steal, but you have to add something more. And my students like that type of exercise, because at that point they can really share their opinions, and they feel that they are doing something together, even though each of them is writing in their own part of the task. Okay, and after that I would go back again to another vocabulary activity. This time it's about shopping collocations. And at that point, I would use some widgets. I will show you in a moment. So the idea here is for students to go through the text again and kind of find the collocations for the words they can see here, like store, value, purchase, brand, and so on and so on. So of course they need some time to do that. And I would, of course, wait for them to do it. But after that, after we check it, I would turn the activity into a kind of a competition. And I sometimes do that, especially when I see that my students are kind of overwhelmed with the amount of the language we are working on. So I do this activity in which I turn on the stopwatch, and I ask my students to volunteer and read the collocations as fast as possible. Okay, of course they have to unmute themselves, and I use the stopwatch and check the time, and they are doing this. Just a few of them, I encourage a few of them to do it. So we want to find the champion of reading the collocations as fast as possible. Why am I doing this? Because collocations are language chunks, which are, I think very important, because words in English do not function in vacuum. Yes, they function in context, and collocations are a very important part of learning a language, and chunks of language. That's what I pay attention to when I teach. I make sure that my students remember the words not just as a word, but as a chunk of language. And at that point, reading the collocations as fast as possible is a good practice for them. It's not only the pronunciation, but also remembering the whole chunks and the whole collocations. So, sorry. So I think it's quite a nice way of practicing and ending the the study stage at that point. Okay, so the third part of our lesson is activate, or the third part of the ESAP framework is activate, the activate stage, in which we want our students to use the language, use the new language individually, and produce produce sentences, produce free language production. Gee, I'm mumbling, sorry. Of course, again, personalized tasks, because that helps us remember better whenever we kind of connect the information with ourselves, with our lives, with our thoughts, experiences, we simply remember them better. So at that point, because like I said, there's quite a lot of vocabulary for students to remember from that lesson. I would use an activity which is called list group label. It's one of the instructional strategies we can use during our lessons. And this one is a 3-step activity in which students are supposed to first list the vocabulary. It's like make a list of the phrases or chunks that they are supposed to learn and to remember from the lesson, and then they have to group them according to some kind of system, but the idea is that they choose the system. Okay, they choose the category. So, and then they have to label them, like give a name to the category that they want to create. So, because sometimes it takes time for them to list the vocabulary, we can also use the different version, like group and label. And that's what I quite often do. I use the Jamboard here. So I collect the chunks of language I want my students to remember, and I put them into Jamboard. And as you can see, I also added 4 squares with the word label, because at that point, I want my students to go through the vocabulary, go through the chunks, and try to divide all these chunks into 4 different categories and give them names. Okay, so I would like now to engage you a bit in this activity. Can you think of one category you could create, and maybe two ideas, 2 examples of the phrases that you could put into this category? Okay, I will give you a minute. Sorry. Okay, phrasal verbs, collocation. Yeah, but that's, that's, I don't want them to use meta language. I want them to kind of think in a different way. Like, for example, Adriana said online shopping. Okay, so online shopping, fantastic. Which phrases would you put into the category online shopping? Money, put aside payout for enter your PIN. Fantastic, Livia, thank you. Okay, how about this online shopping? What could we put into online shopping category? Types of buyers. Okay. 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 Not spending too much money. Bargain hunting, charity shops. Fantastic, Michael. Thank you. Complaint, throwaway industry guideline. Okay, but now you're giving me just single words and I don't know what you're referring to. But I hope you get the idea. Yes. So I ask them to divide all the words and like to put them into 4 different categories, and they have to come up with the category and then decide which words go where. Of course, after that, okay, Livia writes online shopping, impulse purchase, bargain hunting. Okay, yeah, super. What is difficult in this type of activity is that I ask them to use all the words. They have to put all the words into the categories. Okay, so it's quite easy when you have to choose the first 2 words or phrases to put, but after that it gets more and more difficult. So at that point, I would ask my students to, like I think Michael also said that yesterday, take a screenshot of the um, Jamboard, or I would give them the link to the Jamboard so that they can see all the phrases I had prepared for them, and once again I would put them into breakout rooms to do it together with the other students. Okay, so that's the thing where they have to, you know, analyze the vocabulary, they have to analyze the meaning, they have to understand the meaning, and they have to kind of create categories. And also when they work together, they have to they practice the skill of you know, creating arguments and persuading other people why your ideas are worth taking into consideration, for example. Okay, so it's a brilliant activity and it works fantastically with my students. So I absolutely recommend it. It's called List Group Label. Yeah, the best option is if the students create the list, but we don't always have the time for that. So you can have the list prepared before you start the lesson. Okay, and then we move on to our practice part. Do you moderate the discussions? Well, yes. When I kind of throw my students into breakout rooms, of course I pop in sometimes from one to another, and I kind of get involved in the discussion, and I try to ask them. I try to elicit more information, more arguments. Four corners. Yeah, okay, it's similar. Okay, yeah, I think I saw it as well. Four corners, probably. Yeah, thank you, Tatiana. About this moderating. I pop into the breakout rooms and just get into the discussion, and I also kind of ask questions. I try. Sometimes I need to help them because they are kind of stuck and don't know what to do next. Then I encourage them to think outside the box. Yes, I accept all crazy answers. They don't have to be, you know, kind of proper. Yeah, I like when students have creative ideas. And after we go back, which is, let me get back here. After my students come back from the breakout rooms, then of course I would ask them to present the categories, and we would compare as the whole class or whole group, and this is also a very valuable moment for my students when they can see, when they can hear the ideas of the other groups, and just sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, right, why didn't I think about that? Okay, so actually it's a very nice activity, and I think you should definitely try it in your teaching. Okay, so now let's move on to our practice part, which is basically homework. And sometimes it depends on the flow of the lessons, you know. When I plan my lesson, of course, I have a lot of activities planned, but sometimes I can see that the time is kind of passing in a different way. Sometimes they work more slowly, sometimes they are more, you know, agitated. So it depends on the lesson. So that's why quite often when I see that I didn't manage to do all of the tasks that I had planned for this lesson, I ask my students to do them as homework, as their practice, independent homework practice. So sometimes this practice part would be some of the activities from the student's book, but mostly it's interactive online workbook. Okay, as you can see, in the lesson we didn't manage to do exercise 9 and 10, which is about the verb phrases, which is also very, very important for my students to remember. So I would simply ask them to do it at home as their homework. But after that, of course, I would give them quite a lot of practice on their in online workbook, online practice. So that at that point, the exercises are quite short. So it doesn't take a lot of time for them to do them. That's why I give quite a lot of exercises for them to do, and I can see the results when I use the common error report, which I can generate from my English lab. I can see what my students still struggle with, and what I have to pay attention to during our next lesson, and that's basically what I do. So as you can see, the lesson plan is quite simple. It's not complicated. It doesn't take a lot of time. But for me, when I plan the lesson using the ESAP framework, it's not only about planning the sequence, but like I said at the beginning of the session, it's planning for learning. I want my students to remember as much as possible from the lesson. Okay, so basically that's all I have for you today. If you want to join in the conversation about the ESAP framework or have any ideas you want to share or any thoughts, of course, you can use the hashtags Pearson ESAP framework or hashtag ESAP. And if you have any questions right now, I think we still have some time, so I think I can answer some of them, okay? Do the students get the meaning of phrasal verbs in the vocabularies, or do they have to check on the online dictionary, Hassan asks. Okay, so basically the exercise with the phrasal verbs is about kind of drawing them from the text. Yeah, so they have the context, so they can guess the meaning. But after that, they have the definition. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Yes, the exercise here looks like that it says cut, empty space, on. Okay, so it's not difficult for them to find the phrasal verb, and they get the definition immediately because it is incorporated into the lesson. So they don't have to go anywhere else. Okay, and you can, of course, use the dictionary in your Pearson English portal if you want. Okay, thank you, Allah. Thank you. You enjoyed my lessons. Okay, any questions? Just I have to scroll. Isn't ESAP a PPP method under a new name? Actually, Michael yesterday explained that PPP was the methodology which kind of started functioning in the 1970s. Then Jeremy Harmer introduced the idea that the PPP can be replaced with the ESA, yes, like engage, study, activate. And ESAP is like the 2020 methodology. Yes, we added the practice because it's about using online tools and doing online teaching at the moment, something that we really needed to shift to. Okay. Okay, I'm glad you found my techniques useful. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. Access to all these materials. If you're asking about the Pearson materials, of course, you can have access. You just have to get in touch with the Pearson group, your local Pearson group representation. Sorry, I can't do. Okay. Okay, I can see that people from Pearson shared some link to the samples here. Of course, you will receive the, like I said at the beginning, you will receive the online lesson planner and the cheat sheet. Okay, so I can't see any other questions, so I think we can finish. Thank you for being with me. It's very nice to see you again, because as I noticed, quite a few of you were here with me last week. So thank you very much.